Hello, good afternoon. This is my second session on COVID. I hope all of you have understood my first hour, which was the last Wednesday. I gave some introduction to the pandemic of COVID-19 that is sweeping the entire world. So without wasting much time, I would like to continue my topic on the COVID diary. Last time I was showing it as historical aspects. I think the concept, it is wrong. I would like to put it as COVID-19 diary, India. This is also over. And now I just want to give you a little quick rundown. Italy reported a total number of cases, a large number of cases in April 2020. The first case in the USA, 20th January. And the first case diagnosed in India on 24th January. Spain, France, Germany and UK followed the problem of COVID. And the USA reported exponential growth of cases and deaths. Here I would like to inform you that USA is one of the worst affected countries in the world. China resumed economic and commercial activities because the COVID pandemic started way back in the month of November or December in the country of China, and then it has come back to normalcy almost, and it started its normal routine life last month itself. And then suddenly we heard that a lot of cases are reported in Brazil. So far till that time, not many cases in Brazil. Suddenly Brazil became a sort of a target for COVID. Russia slowly and steadily showed increasing trends, and most of the African countries had scanty reporting till today. And most of the South American countries also showed less number of cases. China reported, this is something which is interesting, China reported a resurgence of COVID cases last month ending. So this is all about COVID diary, which is a sort of an introduction to the epidemiological aspects of COVID-19. Then let me speak something about the origin of this disease. There are a lot of stories, a lot of concepts, a lot of predictions made about the probable origin of this disease. You can understand that 96% of genome identity of this virus is almost same as the bat coronavirus. Okay? And it is also having a lot of identity with the pangolin coronavirus. These are the two coronaviruses which are very closely linked to genetically. So this gives an ample amount of evidence to say that COVID-19 has originated either of these two viruses. COVID-19 is a zoonotic virus. It is a well-known factor. So all the statements saying that it is because of the biological warfare and all, they are totally baseless. And please remember that it's a zoonotic virus, and it has got a genetic identity with the bat coronavirus and pangolin coronavirus. So this you have to keep it in mind. Bat appear to be the reservoir of infection. And early investigation of cases, environment sampling, collection of detailed records, and destination of those animals. All these things were verified, and it was proved beyond any doubts that the bat is the origin for the COVID-19 virus. An intermediate host is not identified. It is most probable that pangolins may be the intermediate host. So these two animals, they play a greater role in the perpetuation of this virus for a few more years to come. Laboratory origin is totally ruled out. You just keep it out of your mind that even if somebody says, you can argue with them vehemently that it is not a laboratory origin. This is the picture of pangolins. We call it as spiny anteater. And this is a picture of the bat, which has actually is a reservoir for COVID-19. Now, as an epidemiology is a very important subject where measurement is very useful, right? Without the measurement of the disease, we will not be able to make any conclusions. Out of that, a few measurements I'll be showing it to you. One is the rate of infection. I don't want to say it as a prevalence or incidence, because prevalence is a index where you study the disease at least for 1 year and you restrict yourself to the geographical area, one geographical area, then only you can say it's a prevalence. And even incidence is like that. You should observe the area for more than 1 year, and then only you can think of the incidence. So let us not make a mistake of prevalence or incidence of the disease, but you can always say a rate of infection, a rate of the morbidity. It shows the extent of the disease. Rate of recovery, it is the disease burden that we have. And the disease-specific death rate, the burden of mortality. And case fatality rate is severe to the infection. Proportional case rates and proportional mortality rate. These are all the terms which are already explained to you. I'm going to give you a quick rundown of all these measurements, which I have made based on the statistics available on 25th May. Probably by this time, today is 10th June, almost 15 days over. Some of these rates or the measurement must have changed, but you can always take it for granted that it is the same trend that is still continuing. Suppose the case fatality rates, all these things, the same trends are continuing throughout the world. It has not much changed. Probably the figures must have changed slightly, but the trend is same. Now you can see a chart, a large number of figures that is available here. Here is the population, the total cases, infection rate per million, total deaths, case fatality rate per 1,000, specific disease-specific death rate per million, total recovered, and rate of recovery. All these measurements are important for us because it gives us a wonderful insight into the disease epidemiology. Okay, so as the world goes, the rate of infection is 677, and the case fatality rate is 64.9 per 1,000, and the disease-specific death rate is 43.1 per million, and rate of recovery is 394.7 per 1,000. So this is what the world stands now, right? So please remember, case fatality rate is almost remained the same throughout the world from the beginning till now. The case fatality rate is extremely high, I can say, in the world. And whereas in India, you can see that case fatality rates are low. You can see the world fatality is 64, we are only 29, and the recovery rate is less than 400, ours is 413. And the latest figures say that the recovery rate is much more than this. Now, coming to the infection rate, Sri Lanka is the best as far as infection is concerned. Singapore infection rate is extremely high. You may say that there is a large number of cases in the United States, but when you compare and make a proportion out of the United States population, it is less than what it is in Singapore. Similarly, last time itself I told you that there is a country like Luxembourg where the infection rate is 7,000, more than 7,000 per million. So because the population is less, number of cases reported is proportionately high. So that we have to take into consideration. It is not the absolute numbers which are important. It is the proportions or the ratios or rates that are important for all of us. Case fatality rate, if you see Singapore, though it has got high infection rate, it has kept the case fatality rate extremely low. It's 0.7 per 1,000. So less than 1 per 1,000. So it's a wonderful situation. because Singapore is like a heaven for COVID victims. So the number of cases dying due to COVID is almost nil, whereas in Italy, the other end of the spectrum, Italy, 142.6 per thousand case fatality rate is one of the first affected as far as death, the COVID deaths are concerned. Similarly, disease-specific rates per million out of the total population. This is per million population. Disease-specific rates are 0.4, and the case of Italy is 34.1, and the recovery, you can say, recovery rate is worst in the case of United States, because large number of people are suffering from the moderate to severe type. Though the case fatality rate is 58.9, but there is a lot of people, a large chunk of population staying in the hospital ICUs for a larger period, longer period. Okay, and as far recovery is concerned, Italy is one of the worst, one of the best, because the death rate is high, and whoever is saved, they are saved and they have come back to normal. That is the type of situation that we are seeing in Italy. So the same thing I'm trying to show you in the form of the bar diagrams. So this is the world situation here, and Singapore. This is USA and this one. Okay. And then it is case fatality rates. Case fatality rates, Italy is more, and India stands here 29.7, and the specific death rates highest in Italy, and recovery rate highest in China. You can see China recovery rate is much more than the other countries. The total deaths, if you try to take the total deaths into consideration and make a proportional to that, 59% of the cases belong to the other countries, because I have not taken the details of this one, but let us see this. 29% of the total deaths occurring in the entire world are located in the United States. It's a great sad and very sad thing that we are seeing here. 29% of the total deaths are located in the United States. Similarly, the total cases, 31% of the total cases are located in the United States. Here we are not taking into consideration the population. We are trying to take the figures of all the countries and making a percentage of all these countries. You can see here COVID-19 confirmed cases. The graph goes like this. You can see here it is Asian. It is somewhat trying to plateau it, whereas the Sub-Saharan Africa is going up and Europe is going up, and there is no chance for these countries to recover so soon. And in case of China, you can see that in Wuhan, you can see Wuhan here. These are the total number of cases in January, and coming to down almost to a nil position by February. Within a span of about 1.5 to 1 month, 20 days time, they were able to bring down the cases to almost nil. That is the greatness of the country like China, where they equally suffered, but at the same time, they struggled a lot to bring down all the problems due to coronavirus. Now, daily new cases in the world, again you can see here, it is rising, and similar day by day numbers in new cases during the lockdown period. You can see here May 1st to the May 23rd, the number of day-to-day number is increasing. This is not because the problem is increasing, it's only because we are increasing the number of tests. As you cover more and more people are likely to get positive, because they are positive even from the beginning. Because the proportion of our diagnosis is extremely low, number of tests done is extremely low. That's the reason why we were not getting much cases in the beginning. But as we covered more and more people, we are getting more number of cases. So it is we should not blame the government because of increasing number of all these cases. Daily new cases in India, it's increasing. Now, cumulative count in India, the total reported cases and also the total recovered cases, the trends are almost same. Reported cases are increasing and we are also increasing the recovery rates. So that shows the number of people who are really affected or who are really in the hospital is extremely low. Extremely, almost 50% of them are released, are relieved of the symptoms and they are recovered, and the remaining 15 they are staying in the hospitals. So it's a wonderful sign for this country. Now let us see the definition of terms. I think if you have paper and pen, write down. A confirmed case of COVID-19 is defined as a person with laboratory confirmation of COVID-19 infection and irrespective of clinical signs and symptoms. The person may not have the symptoms, or even if he has symptoms, they are not very clear, but still when once the laboratory confirmation for the virus is positive, he should be confirmed as a case of COVID. A suspect case, there are 3 types of suspect cases. A patient with acute respiratory illness, fever and at least one sign symptom of this one cough, history of travel to our residence and location, reporting community transmission of COVID-19 within 14 days prior to symptoms. This particular definition is adopted in India, and we were only trying to test these people with the history of the foreign travel. And again, one more type of definition given WHO: a patient with any acute respiratory illness having been in contact with the confirmed or probable case for at least 14 days prior to that. Now we are adapting this type of definition. And the patient with severe acute respiratory illness requiring hospitalization and in the absence of an alternative diagnosis that fully explains the clinical presentation. A severe respiratory illness, it requires hospitalization in the absence of, there is no diagnosis available, but still he is a suspect case. A probable case is a suspect case from whom testing of COVID virus is inconclusive. We have done the test, but the test is not conclusive. It doesn't mean that the patient is not positive. A suspect case, a probable case is a suspect case for whom testing could not be performed any reason. Some problem is there, some lack of the testing facilities are not there, but still a suspect case without who is pending should be considered as a probable case. A contact case, face-to-face contact with the probable or confirmed case within 1 meter or 15 or for more than 15 minutes time. That is the contact period. If you are having a patient and the patient is a confirmed case or a probable case, and you are talking to the patient for more than 15 minutes face-to-face without a mask, then you are a contact. If you have a mask, you are not a contact. Direct physical contact with a probable case or confirmed case, a direct care of the patient with probable confirmed case without using PPE and other situations as indicated by local risk assessments. So here, you should be very clear in your mind what is meant by a contact. You may be treating patients or you may be in contact with a patient, but as long as you are using all the protocols, you cannot be called as a contact. So, when once a case of COVID is detected, there is a hue and cry in the community saying that that fellow has come to my house, that's why I am a contact. That fellow has gone to another house. So all the family members should be considered. These are all some of the things that are being perpetuated and myths are being perpetuated. Please, in your mind, it should be very clear that a contact is a contact when you are exposed to a confirmed or probable case without any PPEs or without any protective devices. Now let us see the agent factors. It has got 4 types of proteins. One is a spike glycoprotein. The other one is a membrane protein, hemagglutinin esterase protein, and nuclear protein. These are the 4 types of proteins. Out of that, the spike glycoprotein is important for the vaccine because this is the one which contacts with the cell, and in the cell, if you are able to see that it is rejected, the virus cannot enter the human cell. Now, let me tell you the agent factors in little detail. It's a human beta coronavirus. Please remember there are more than about 27 coronaviruses. There are some animal coronaviruses, there are some human coronaviruses. There are 4 types of coronaviruses which are incriminated in common cold. So let us not use the term coronavirus. Be specific about COVID. COVID is a human beta coronavirus. It is also called as SARS coronavirus 2. Okay, the name of the agent is SARS coronavirus 2. The name of the disease is COVID-19. These 2 terms you should be there in your mind. Spherical, it's a pleomorphic single-stranded RNA with positive sense. It's a nucleoprotein within the capsid of matrix of protein. The club-shaped glycoprotein projections, which are important for its invasion. 6 ORFs, open reading frames, are there in the genome, translated from signature RNAs. 4 main structural proteins, encoded ORFs 10, 11, near 30 terminals. These are all the technical specification of the agent. And each and every virus cannot be called as COVID-19. Only that virus which is having all these features can be called as COVID virus. A genetic and structure is responsible for its pathogenesis. Dynamics of the variants, relatively heavy and complex variant it is. It's relatively stable particle it is. It's not so easily destroyed. It resists high temperatures. The usual way of myth is that when the temperature is aging, the COVID organism also, virus also is killed. It is not true because it can resist even high temperatures available in tropical countries. Survives during the prolonged dryness also and stays on the metal for 3 days. Stays on the clothing for 16 hours. Viable only for a few hours on the packages. Susceptible to the sodium hypochlorite. Easily removed, not killed by detergents. It is not killed by detergents. When you're using the soap and trying to wash your hand, it doesn't mean that the soap is killing the virus. It's only removing the virus. The virus may be drained into the drains. Susceptible for alcohol-based hand wash. Again, I would like to inform you very clearly that when you are using the alcohol-based hand wash, there is no need for soap again. There are some people, they are having a hand wash and again they are going and washing their hands with the soap. There is no need. It's a dry type of a wash and it doesn't require liquid water at all again. Does not penetrate intestine and mucous membrane, and fatality rates higher than other coronavirus. That's why we are so much worried. If it is the fatality rates are, see, common cold, fatality rates are almost 1 per 1,000. Here, the fatality rates are higher. I don't want to talk about the other agent factors now. Then, host factors. The median age group that is observed in China is 51 years. But the infection rate is same, but only problem is if it's occurring among the people above 65, and it is highly dangerous. Gender, there is not much of a difference. Males are slightly at higher risk than females. Religion, probably those religions using not using the social distance are at high risk. Those religions which are trying to group together for the sake of religious practices, they are at high risk. Occupation and all the healthcare workers are at high risk, and also the people who are in the surveillance, they are also exposed and they are at high risk of getting the disease. Literacy status, it is shown that it is more common among the people with low literacy status. Personal hygiene is very important. More personal hygiene, less chances. Addictions, alcohol is supposed only alcohol and smoking, both are at a high risk of getting the disease because these two things, they reduce our immunological status. Health status, if you are having some comorbidities like blood pressure, high blood pressure, hypertension and diabetes, and also the cardiac illnesses, you are at high risk of getting the disease. So the host factors as it stands now, I am not saying that it is a final this one. The old people are at high risk. Males are at little more risk than the females. And religion, especially, I would like to mention here a Tablighi, where these people have spread the disease. So whichever religion is giving chance for the congregations or aggregation of the people, they are at high risk. The healthcare workers, including you and me, are important. We are having a high risk. And then personal hygiene and addictions and health, all these things are important host factors. Environment factors, temperature, humidity, overcrowding, ventilation, air conditioning. Again, air conditioning, if it is not properly done, it is better not to have air conditioning. Social cultural practices, home sanitations, air pollution, and urban areas. These are the environmental factors which you should remember while you are dealing with the disease. Routes of transmission, there are three important routes of transmission: direct contact, then indirect contact like fomites, then droplet transmission. These are three important transmission. Out of that, the direct contact is more important, and less important, least important is the droplet transmission. As I told you, this virus is a heavy virus. Even if somebody is coughing, somebody is sneezing, somebody is talking loudly, the virus may come out of his mouth or nose, but still the virus will come down to the earth or the floor within a distance of 3 feet because the virus is heavy. That's why the droplet infection or transmission is not very significant as far as transmission of this disease is concerned. Now, mean incubation period is 4 to 6 days. The maximum incubation period is up to 14 days. In China, they have used this parameters 5 to 6 days, and they were releasing the people from quarantine after 6 days if the people in quarantine are not showing any symptoms. Whereas in our country, we took the maximum incubation period 14 days, and we are keeping them for 14 days. The range is 1 to 14 days. Secondary attack rates in households ranges from 3 to 10. Now, clinical features: pyrexia, cough, sneezing, breathlessness, anosmia, that is lack of smell, loss of smell, and ageusia, that means loss of taste, and chest pain. These are the important symptoms. That these symptoms are almost common for most of the viruses. There is nothing new for COVID virus. That means any viral infection can mimic the COVID infection. That's why there is not much of a scare that should be taken into your mind, that if you are having these symptoms, it doesn't mean that you are suffering COVID. There's a lot of scare among the population that if somebody is coughing, some people are running away from him. Somebody is sneezing, they are running away from him. It is not so. It is not a sneezing may be because of allergic reactions. Okay, so let us not unnecessarily perpetuate this scare and fear among the people. And if there is, as for the confirmed cases, as for the definitions, That is, they have to go for the testing. The major symptoms as given by the China experience. The 87% of the people are having fever, 67 people are having a dry cough, 38% are having the fatigue, 33 is sputum production is there. That means sputum production is not very important. Shortness of the breath and the sore throat, headache and myalgia, all the symptoms are major symptoms. The minor symptoms are chills, nausea, nasal congestion, diarrhea, hemoptysis. All these things are very minor. They should not be considered for the confirmation of the disease. And clinical features, asymptomatic, extremely rare. And recently we had a lot of discussion about this one, asymptomatic cases. They were telling that particular term asymptomatic on the basis of the antibody testing, which is not a confirmatory test. Mild to moderate disease is most common, and severe disease is 13.9. A critical illness is only 6%. Now, diagnosis, all suspected cases should be tested. Informed consent should be taken. Specimens are potentially infectious. Specimen should reach the laboratory quickly, otherwise the virus may be inactivated. Correct handling of specimens is essential. Specimens stored and shipped at 2 to 8 degrees centigrade. Use of viral transport medium is strongly recommended. There are a lot of transport mediums. In that, the viral transport medium is very important. Specimen is frozen at -20 if there is a delay. So, you take all this microbiology people may be telling you, getting more details on this. Diagnosis, NAT testing. Example, RT-PCR, nucleic acid amplification tests are confirmatory tests. Okay, and there is one more type of this one that is called as cartridge-based the nucleic acid amplification test, and these two tests are being recommended. We have to take a nasopharyngeal swab. Oropharyngeal swab is also taken, but it is preferable to have a nasopharyngeal swab. It is said that when you are taking nasopharyngeal swab, you may have to put little deep into it so that when you are keeping the probe, the fellow feels little discomfort. That is required. If that discomfort is not there, the probe is not reaching the proper place. A little discomfort, there should be, then only it's confirmed that it is reaching the desired areas. Oropharyngeal swabs are taken when there is no possibility, when people are too much scared of having the nasopharyngeal swabs. And there may be a chance for the bronchoalveolar lavage in the case of severe respiratory cases. Autopsy of the lung of the deceased is now you got antibody detection. A lot of discussion went on about antibody detection. It's only for screening purpose. It's only supplementary. Cannot be used for confirmation. Please remember this. Only virus detection is confirmatory, whereas this is not confirmatory. This is only meant for research purposes. A paid serum, acute and convalescent, may be useful. A single serum is not recommended at all. This is what is done in this state. In the beginning, they have used antibody testing, and every day they used to say that so many 80–90% of people are asymptomatic. That shows very clearly that it was wrongly interpreted, right? Please remember this. Only virus detection is important. Myths and facts, you have to remember. Disease is transmitted by food and water, no. Transmission by fecal-oral route, no. Virus is airborne, not possible, not important this one. Agent is sensitive to hot and humid condition, not so far it is proved. Rate of infection is high in aged population. It is not the rate of infection that is. It is the severity infection is more in the case of aged population. Rate of infection is same in throughout all the age groups. Infants are not affected. It is again wrong because there are a few cases where infants are also affected. A day's baby, 10 days baby has tested positive for coronavirus. It may be less, but you can't say it is not affected. Children are immune to disease, again it's wrong. N95 mask is mandatory, again it is wrong. There is no need for N95 mask because there is no need for all of us to use it because it's a very costly one, it's a scarce commodity. If everybody starts using N95, probably the people who require N95 may not get it. PPE should be worn by everyone in the hospital. Again, this is a sort of a myth. Please remember, PPE is only there, is required for those people who are in direct contact with the patients, not even the people who are on quarantine. Disease has got a carrier state. So far, carrier state has not been proved. Asymptomatic play a dominant role in transmission. Again, it is wrong. People with good immunity are not affected. Again, it is wrong. People with the good immunity are also affected. Disease has got high mortality. Again, it's wrong. Health workers are responsible for rapid spread. Again, a lot of people were trying to keep the doctors in the flats at a distance. They are trying to insult them. They are trying to ask them to go out of the flats. Again, wrong. Disease transmitted to pets. Again, it's wrong. Social distance is not required. Again, it's not this one. There are some people who say, oh, we are very strong, sir. We don't require any social distance. Again, that's a wrong type of thinking. Home quarantine is not practicable. It is practicable, but with the precautions. Pregnant women suffer more. Again, there is nothing like that. So these are a lot of myths that are going on. Please remember, unless we try to remove the myths among the people, it's very difficult for us to continue our efforts to treat the disease. Now we come to the prevention. The primary prevention, health promotion is the most important aspect of prevention. The health promotion, under the health promotion, you have to remember, it is better to stay indoors on a compulsory basis. Staying indoor doesn't mean that you stay and go on coming out very frequently. No, it is better a compulsory stay indoors should be maintained, and you can come out maybe once in 2 days, once in 3 days, whenever you require the some essential come out. Otherwise, it's better to stay indoors unless you are working, unless you are you are actually having some work outside, very essential. Don't come out of it. It's a very important measure for the treatment or the prevention of COVID virus. Observe adequate home sanitation. Here also you have to remember that you can use the sodium hypochlorite solution inside the house. You can use any antiseptic lotions so that the virus which is on the floor is quickly inactivated. Avoid overcrowding, and overcrowding is one important factor which has caused so much of damage in the United States. And you know, when COVID pandemic is going on, people are advised to avoid avoid overcrowding, but those people went on weekends. And weekend they enjoyed in the beaches, they enjoyed in the clubs, enjoyed in the pubs, and then they had a very huge, problem. And maintain a good ventilation. It is not required that you should have AC. A good ventilation is important. Avoid using faulty air conditions. If you have a faulty air condition, better not to have air condition. Wash hands thoroughly with soap and sanitize or alcohol-based hand washes. And as it is advocated, it's not that every half an hour you meticulously go and start washing. It's not necessary. Please remember, whenever you go out, whenever you think that you have touched some suspected material, then only there is a need to hand wash. You have gone outside for some work and you have touched, you have a feeling that you touched something which is having a virus, then you wash it. Whereas if you are staying indoors and you are not going out at all, there is no need for hand wash. Some people are coming from outside, they are talking with you, they are touching your walls, then there is a need for hand wash. You have to quit smoke completely. When once you are a smoker, your risk of getting the virus is extremely high. People using immunosuppressive drugs should take extra precautions. People with comorbid conditions should take medications regularly. People aged above 60 should be well protected. This is very important. This one, because if the above 60 are exposed to the virus, there is no extra risk of getting infected. But once they get infection, they have a high risk of dying due to the virus. Okay. Then health promotion continues. It should be self-imposed and avoid touching surfaces, frequent hand washing, cough or sneeze with adequate precautions, maintain thermal screening, insist on social distancing, travel only when unavoidable, routine disinfecting sodium hypochlorite, avoid eating outside unhygienic food or water, quarantine suspected cases quickly. Suppose there is a suspected case, you approach the relevant health authorities, see that it is quarantine. If suppose health facility is not available, there is a possibility of home quarantine with all the protocols. Now coming to the primary prevention specific protection, we have not come to the stage because we have to remember at this point of time health promotion is the only way of preventing it. We do not have a guarantee of specific protection now. Okay, and the specific protection can be discussed under chemoprophylaxis, seroprophylaxis, immunoprophylaxis, and personal protection. Chemoprophylaxis, you can use the chloroquine hydroxychloroquine tablets, and again there is a lot of controversy regarding this, and it's only recommended for the frontline workers. There is no guarantee that the people taking hydroxychloroquine will be 100% protected. Seroprophylaxis, transfer of the serum from the convalescent, it is being tested. Immunoprophylaxis, about 100 vaccines are under trial in 8 countries, and personal protection, wearing a mask and PPE, all these things are important specific protection measures. Again, I want to emphasize here, health promotion is the only way of preventing it. Specific protection is available, but it is not 100% guaranteed. And the primary prevention, I just want to put it in the form of the weapon of Lord Shiva, that is Trishula. It has got 3 prongs. That is, the first one is personal distance, second one is personal protection, third one is personal hygiene. If you are able to do all these things, the coronavirus can be killed, and you are the Shiva incarnation. Everyone is a Shiva incarnation. If you wear this weapon of Trishula, you can definitely see that this disease is completely prevented. Early diagnosis, again, not very much useful nowadays. It's only an additional adjunct prevention measures. Insist on thermal screening. Again, I want to caution you here. People taking paracetamol, though they have a fever, which may be due to COVID, may be tested negative because they have taken the paracetamol tablet. Again, it is not very useful method. Isolate the confirmed cases quickly. Only symptomatic treatment can be given. Early detection of complications is important. Immunotherapy has been tried in certain places, and it showed that immunotherapy is a promising one. Balanced diet, treatment of comorbid conditions, and no unknown or effective drugs so far. Many antiviral drugs are being used. Again, most of the antiviral drugs are not useful at this point of time. Tertiary preventions, ICUs, use of antibiotics, use of antivirals, use of ventilators, routine virus testing, and specialist care. Again, it's not very important. It's only for future. Now, as far as you are concerned, you have to propagate the message of health promotion to the people and try to understand that health promotion is the only way of preventing it. Rehabilitation, again, there's a lot of social stigma of the recovered patients, and vocational rehabilitation requirement is required, and the physical rehabilitation is also important, because the vocational rehabilitation, the fellow, he must be thinking that a person has employed somebody and he has got a COVID, and after recovery also he may be reluctant to take him back. So that is important, that there may be a lot of problem. An update on the COVID vaccine. More than 100 potential vaccines are in progress. Only 10 are now promising. The spike protein is always targeted here and should include all variants. So far, 2 or 3 variants of the virus are known. Unless you have all the variants in the vaccine, it may not be useful. But one thing it's very clear is that it is not in near future you will be able to use the vaccine, though there are so many claims that they'll be able to use it by December. I have a doubt about it, and it may take a minimum of 10 to 12 months time from now onwards. Now we have these vaccines which are likely to be used in near future. That is, Novavax final stage has entered. Moderna virus, this is RNA virus. Chinese casino virus, biological vaccine it is. Oxford University, AstraZeneca PLC vaccine. ICMR, Bharat Biotech International Limited vaccine. Thailand mRNA vaccine. Tobacco vaccine, again, they say that tobacco vaccine may be very, very promising. Let us see. Then Pfizer BioNTech vaccine. ICMR MyLab vaccine, likely to be a contender promised by the year end. So these are all the important. Now let us have a little view about the unique strategies of Government of India. Complete lockdown, a graded lockdown has followed. Containment was done. And triage is used, like red zones, green zones, and orange zones. Color coding of zones, strict government sponsored quarantine and isolation. Dedicated COVID hospitals. Please remember, dedicated COVID hospitals have done a lot of benefit for the country, and most of the hospitals which are running were converted into COVID hospital. For your information, our own hospital, Gayatri Hospital, is a district COVID hospital now. We do not admit the other patients, we only admit the COVID patients here. Honoring of the COVID warriors, again, that is a great gesture in the Government of India, where they have honored the doctors, the paramedical staff, the police personnel, and even the people who are cleaning the sanitation. And protection of healthcare workers, this is again a wonderful feature of our country. A national recognition of the COVID warriors. International cooperation, where our Prime Minister has given a lot of pharmaceutical inputs to the other countries. It was a great gesture from the government. Widespread use of mass media is used so well, and almost everyone was involved in that, and I was feeling that everyone has become a doctor. Everyone has started advising people. It's good as far as COVID is concerned. Involvement of political leaders and celebrities. Feeding and safe transfer of the migrant workers. Vande Bharat mission, where they have brought people who are stranded in other countries. They are coming to the country. Suddenly the flights were cancelled. They were retained there for more than 2 months, and they have almost come back to this country. Atmanirbhar Abhiyan, again the government has pumped about 20 lakh crores into the economic circles of this country so that the people will be able to come back to normalcy. COVID related information is legalized, and agriculture and financial services are encouraged now so that we will come back to normalcy. Economic support is COVID related losses. All these things are the unique status of the government of India, which we should be able to appreciate, because no other country has done so much for the COVID problems. That's why we stand out unique in this whole world, where we have got least the deaths and the highest levels of recovery, and we are going to prosper well, and we are going to come out of this problem very soon. The lockdown benefits, again, I just want to share it with you. Lockdown has benefited not only for COVID, and it also benefited non-COVID. COVID benefits are extended slow progression of the pandemic, decreased severity of the disease, absolute reduction of the unwanted mortality, panic control and eliminations, time to educate people on the pandemic. We have got sufficient time to educate people on because of the lockdown, because people are staying indoors. There was nothing else to do. They were listening to the TV forecasts and TV shows, and we were able to educate them sufficiently well, both in local and also the national languages. Effective training of the COVID warriors was done. Improvement of testing facilities. Now we are in a position to have at least 1 to 2 lakhs tests per day. Establishment, and we also have got sufficient stocks of PPEs. Establishment of COVID centers, very quickly they have become full-fledged centers. And useful tips from other countries we got, because of the lockdown only, we were able to get some lessons from China and other countries. Learning from others' mistakes, some people have made mistakes in the control measures, and we learned from the mistakes and we have not repeated those mistakes. So these are the COVID benefits of lockdown. And non-COVID benefits: reduced or nil air pollution, total elimination of road traffic accidents and deaths, improvement of healthy lifestyle at all levels, reduction in non-essential travel. Before we used to unnecessarily travel for the sake of traveling purpose. Probably after COVID has come in, we started reducing non-essential travels. Reduction in the water pollution. Improvement of it was shown that Ganga was having the clearest water in the history. In the past history, Ganga never had such a clear water. Improvement of family relationships. When you come together and you have nothing else to do, you improve your family relations. Improvement of human values. People started having they were celebrating others' birthdays who are in the lockdown conditions. Control of non-essential shopping. Before we unnecessarily go to malls and we spend some time used to unnecessarily buy certain things. That is stopped. Improvement of healthcare settings and realization of public health needs. Now after the COVID, people have improved knowledge about public health activities. 10 points to remember. Please note down if you have a pen and paper here. How long this pandemic will continue? It's difficult to say now. Will there be mutation of and re-emergence? It is possible. When will you get an efficient vaccine? Again, it may be taking a few more months. Is it possible to cure the disease? Again, it's a big question. Why most of the African countries remained least affected? Again, here some people say there may be a disease in the African countries because of the lack of testing facilities. It is showing no cases at all. Again, it has to be verified. Why the state of Maharashtra showed the peak infections? Again, it's a big question. Why Caucasians are more affected? If you see the Caucasians, out of all the races, Caucasians are more affected. Is there an intermediate host? And we do not know right now. Why it is less common in persons age less than 18 years, we still not having a answer now. Whether herd immunity is relevant in COVID, it is very important. And again, how you get this herd immunity is again a big question mark. So all these 10 points are with you, and you have to remember these 10 questions should be answered as soon as possible if you really want to prevent the disease. Conclusion, let us change our lifestyle and start living with COVID-19, because the lifestyle should be changed. Wearing a mask, it should become an automatic one, and hand washing should become an automatic one, and avoiding overcrowding and maintaining social distance, it should become a sort of our lifestyle. Whether COVID is there or not, we should maintain this type of lifestyle. Then not only COVID may be there today, tomorrow COVID is not there, but we will be able to prevent so many other viral diseases by using these good lifestyles. Japan is one country where they are already using this. So in Japan, there are less number of cases. So China is so close by. Japanese Prime Minister once answered why COVID is less here. They said that whatever social distancing and the hand washing, everything is concerned, we always follow whether COVID is there or not. You know, I still remember when I went to Tokyo, and when people, it's written that it's only meant for 5 people inside the lift, only 5 people enter. Even if 100 people are waiting, there is nothing like overcrowding of the lift. That sort of lifestyle is required for us. A sort of a self-imposed lifestyle is important for us. These are the references. The references you can always get from the this one. You can make a note of all these references. At the end of the whole lecture of 2 hours, I just want to inform you that all of us are at a risk of getting COVID infection. And remember that if you are taking all the precautions as prescribed by the Government of India, probably we will be able to avoid the disease. Okay? And please remember that all the myths should be removed from the minds of the people. So I would like to conclude by announcing one important information, that is 3 people, that is Mangu Rama Ashwini and Mayreddy Vanita and Durga Vidya. These are the 3 people. Their ICMR proposals have been accepted, and 3 projects are accepted from this department. I really feel proud of my staff members and also the students who have given their proposals. I congratulate them for their achievements. Thank you very much. Let us meet again a little later. If you have any doubt, you can give a message.